This conference will now be recorded.
Well, welcome everyone to the March 9th Transportation Policy Body Meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And first item is welcome everyone, but I appreciate everyone attending so that we can have a quorum. Next item is our regular business. The first item on the agenda is approval of the March 9th agenda. I move that we approve March 9th agenda. Do I have a second?
You have a second.
This is Ann, so second.
Very good. It sounded like Dan might have seconded that. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I heard no one opposed, so that the meeting agenda is approved. Next is approval of the February 9th meeting minutes. I move that we approve the meeting minutes from February the 9th. Do I have a second?
This is a second from Jack Hassel.
Thank you, Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye, please. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I did not hear anyone say opposed. Next item on the agenda is director's report. One thing that I think the director will probably talk about is we're going to change one item on the consent agenda, but I'll let him discuss that. So, Ted, are you ready to go?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, board members. Just want to provide an overview. Let me go through the slides to the next slide. Let's see how I can go to the next slide.
I can't hear anything, David.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether the slide is seen. There's an overview that I would like to share with you. For the most MPOs, the benefit of the members that joined the MPO was something that I would like to share with you. There are many benefits members who join the MPO would experience. I mean, not often it is measured in the monetary benefits, although federal funds reach a region and many jurisdictions participate. Yet there are certain benefits to the members and the jurisdictions that are invaluable for the MPO area. Something that I would like to share with you, because having seen and worked in MPOs in the past for 25 years, I was really excited to, with the leadership and the excitement that, Commissioner Dan's leadership, Commissioner David's leadership, the staff at WAMPO is also excited about the contributions, the WAMPO region, many members coming together, many jurisdictions coming together. There are certain rewarding experiences for the members. This was shared with the executive committee during the discussions of strategic vision for the WAMPO area. There are primarily three rewarding measures that can be noted. They are connectedness, like having an individual entity. Once the individual entity joins the WAMPO or MPO, there is this connectedness. How do I connect with the larger picture? How do I connect with the larger transportation system? This connectivity to the larger picture is the benefit that is measured by the members. And number two, there are shared resources. I was volunteering at Pasco County MPO in 2017 when Hurricane Irma was occurred. Any natural disasters, that's the time we see how the jurisdictions will have limited resources. to address any of the natural disasters that occur. It could be tornado, it could be hurricane or anything. Knowing the resources of individual entities was a great help in one of the MPOs in Florida. So that is just an example, but shared resources could be the funding, the knowledge, the data, the infrastructure. And there are many ways a member can see the benefits and measure by the shared resources. Joining this MPO and the members, um, one of the benefits that can be measured is shared resources. And finally, the unity is something. The unity, like any large family, all members coming together. Uh, the unity, most MPOs are found that the funds flow very well from federal and state when there is that unity in the cause and the projects. Um, and one of the um, one of the ways that can be accomplished is also a lot of our members mentioned that COVID-19 has made us all not able to discuss with each other. Once we're gathering back in person, it lends itself great opportunities. In the meantime, we have discussed with some of the member jurisdictions and cities um, how can the growth patterns, the land use growth patterns, and transportation growth patterns within the city connect with the region. So today we have City of Mays, Julian Grant and Richard Lumley. They both are here today to talk about how City of Mays plans to grow itself and, and connect with the region. Next month, we have City of Derby plan to present this, and the following week we have City of Bel Air present the same trends, which is what are the trends of land use growth and transportation, sharing the stories of individual cities so that how those cities are planning to connect with the region. So I'll be reaching out and staff will be reaching out to each of you. Also, staff will be visiting you in this year, 2021 and 2022 as well. For this primary reason of, what are the vision of transportation growth and the growth as well as the land use growth. Not only that, these small jurisdictions and entities make us strong, all the cities here, but there is this unique connectivity with the State Department of Transportation as well as Federal Highway Administration. So that makes the MPO, any MPO unique for that connectedness. Something that is often missed, the opportunities, how these resources of the MPO is invaluable. So that's all the overview we want to share with you, how invaluable that can lead us to decisions in project selection processes. Although some of the MPOs have, there are differences when the funding comes in. There are always, many MPOs do have differences how the funds are spent. However, when the focus is shifted from where the funds are spent to shared resources and unity, it becomes even greater and stronger. And funds spent are always changing from one town to the other depending on the needs anyway. So that is how most MPOs are deriving its value and in the shared resources as well. So let me move on to the consent agenda item. We have an advice from our team members from Kansas Department of KDOT that let us move the item from the consent agenda item, monthly activity report UPWP, to the next meeting. We will delete that item today. The request is to present the monthly activity in a quarterly panel. So quarterly report will be presented in the next month, April. So, Mr. Chair, that's all the requests for today. Monthly activity report can be consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. Are there any questions from any of the committee members on Chad's report? Very good. I appreciate it. That brings us to item D on the consent agenda. As Chad just mentioned, we're going to cover item 3 next month, so we'll defer item 3. So the first thing that I want to do is I'll make a motion that we defer item 3 on the consent agenda until next month. Do I have a second?
Second. Belair.
Very good. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Seeing no one, motion passes. That brings us to the actual consent agenda items that we do need to vote on, and that's items 1 and 2, the WAMPO Trans Systems extension and TIP funding about program management procedures. Everyone's had an opportunity to review those. I make a motion that we approve those 2 items on the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Someone opposed it? No opposed. Very good. Motion passes. That brings us to public comments. Does anyone on the meeting with us today have any public comments that they'd like to make?
Choose
Jane.
me. Thank you. You know, I know enough about MPOs that that you're required to have public comments. So I'm happy to provide that service.
Very good.
And I've been providing that service. I mean, I've been looking in at WAMPO for many, many years. It's hard to understand. You know, I have heard that one way to explain a complex issue is to do an elevator speech or to tell your grandma. I'd like to propose that there be a citizen that serves on your board. You know, it doesn't need to be this grandma, but it's a very complex issue that I'm afraid plenty of us don't understand. So that's my public comment today, just that suggestion. And I will take comments right now or at any time in the future. I appreciate Chad's remark that this is a family and this is a distant cousin or grandma that keeps trying to look in and doesn't understand everything. So thank you very much for listening.
Very good, Jane. I appreciate it. It will, if it's legal, and we'll bring this up at the executive board. I made a note of it already.
Thank you, David.
And we'll get Kelly Rundell involved in our next executive board meeting again and find out what we need to do. If we do add that, it would require a change to the bylaws, I'm pretty sure, but we'll check to make sure that we do everything legally. So I appreciate your comment. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on public agenda today? I don't see or hear anyone. We will then close public comment and move on to new business. The first item for new business, and we do need to start changing some of the bylaws after Councilwoman Tuttle and I took over in leadership position. One of the things that is very important to me is continuity. And I hate to lose knowledge of some of the folks that have been working this project for some time. So we ran it by Chad and by Kelly Rundell. and she can go through, she's online with us and talk more detail about the bylaws change for the TPB. But the main changes that I suggest is that we need to keep the past chair on as an ex officio member on the executive committee. I know he still serves on the TPB, but I think that it's very important that we don't lose that continuity. So that's one of the major changes that I suggest to the bylaws. So Kelly, if you're available, if you could go through some of the other changes that we've got, I will turn it over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The TPB bylaws, most of the changes are just kind of cleaning up some odds and ends, but there are some bigger changes having to do with the executive committee. As the chairman mentioned, one of the interests was to have the immediate past president being on the executive committee. So the bylaw sets that person up as an ex officio that would be a non-voting member of the executive committee. If something happens where that person is no longer representing their governmental entity, that position isn't filled. Since it's non-voting, it's okay. But that would provide some communication and continuity between the past chair of the chair and the current chair. So then that's one of the issues. There are 2 TPB members on the executive committee that are not officers. They're not chair or vice chair. And in this set of bylaws, I've called them members at large to kind of clarify that they're not the same people. And so those have been specified that they are on the executive committee. This bylaw also has the TAC chair on the executive committee, which I think has been kind of the practice, even though it hasn't been officially that case. And it also does provide that if someone who's on the executive committee can't attend the meeting for some reason, their alternate from their government can attend for them. All the jobs in the executive committee are listed as a 1-year term, but you could serve 2 consecutive terms. And that means you could serve 2 terms in any position. You could be 2 terms as the at-large and then 2 terms as the vice chair and then 2 terms as the chair. That wasn't really clear in the earlier bylaws, although I think that's what your intention was. So those are the big changes in the TPB bylaws. You need a 2/3 vote of you here, your quorum, to make those changes. Do you guys have any questions about anything else or those that I've talked about?
Anyone have any questions for Kelly on what we're recommending? I see no changes and no questions. So I appreciate Kelly and the executive committee coming together and coming up with these suggested changes. Therefore, I make a motion that we approve the TPB bylaw amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone oppose? I saw no one oppose. So that motion is passed. And thank you, Kelly, and the rest of the executive committee for working on those. The next item on the agenda, we also took a look at the bylaws for the TAC, which is now called the Technical Advisory Committee instead of Transportation. And so I will turn it back over to Kelly, and she can go through the changes that are recommended for the TAC.
Well, yes, one of the big changes is to rename this committee the Technical Advisory Committee. I think you had that name at one point and somehow it became the Transportation Advisory Committee. But among MPOs, Technical Advisory Committee is the more common name. So this set of bylaws recommends going back to that. This set of bylaws needed a little bit more change because they were inconsistent with the TPB bylaws as far as the chair of TAC. So now, since we looked at it at the same time, they're now consistent. So it's now set up that the TAC chair would be voted on in February, which is the same time as you do your TPB officers. I think the bylaws that you're amending say August. So they put that all the time. Serve a one-year term, but as with the other positions on the TPB, they can serve 2 consecutive terms. As I mentioned, it puts the TAC chair on the TPB Executive Committee for a good share of information. The TAC committee also had mentioned that earlier that there was a member of WAMPO, but who was not on the TPB. We just changed that, so there's a member of the TPB on TAC that's not the chair. And I guess that's one of the things you'll need to talk about later. The other kind of major change on that was to clarify that the secretary of TAC, who is the WAMPO director, does not vote on TAC issues. They're just serving as a secretary in that committee. I think those are the big things in there. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Kelly?
I will add that to amend this, you just need a majority of the TPB.
Very good. Once again, any questions whatsoever? Well, once again, I appreciate Kelly's work on this. I appreciate the executive committee and the TAC folks that took a look at this. So therefore, I think that these are a good idea. I move that we approve the TAC bylaw amendment. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I did not hear anyone say that they were opposed, so that motion passes. The next item on the agenda is item C, is the WAMPO committee members. And as we just discussed, the folks on the executive committee that are definitely appointed are the chair and the vice chair, and the head of the TAC are on the executive committee. That does leave a couple other positions. Also, we just approved the past president to be an ex officio member. So Dan Wajak is automatically a member then to the executive committee. So that brings us down to 2 additional slots that we need to fill on the executive committee. And during our latest meeting with the executive committee, it was recommended, especially since Derby is now a Class 1 city, that Jack Heslop serve on there. And the executive committee also asked me to ask if Bruce Armstrong would serve. Both those individuals indicated that they were interested in serving. So the entire slate is David Dennis, Becky Tuttle, Jack Heslop, Troy Tabor, Bruce Armstrong, and ex officio Dan Wajak. So I make a motion to approve those individuals.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Oh, actually, I'm glad that I put the slide up, because one of the things that we recommended was that we add Tom Hine to the TAC committee. We'll go ahead and vote on what we already had, but then we'll come back and add Tom Hine to the TAC committee. So all in favor of the executive committee, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion is passed. And again, one of the things that the executive committee discussed at our last meeting was to add Tom Hine to the TAC committee as a WAMPO representative. I know that Troy has contacted him and he has agreed to serve. So I'd like to make the motion that we approve Tom Hine to the TAC committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes. Next item, I saw that Mr. Lemunion is on. I don't know who's going to make the presentation, but I understand the city of Mays is going to give us a update on their region. So I will turn it over to Mays, whoever's going to present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm going to start the presentation, but of course, Jolene wrote it, so if I flub it up, she can blame me. But first, I want to thank Chad for giving us the opportunity to give you a little presentation as to what's going on in our community up here, and we certainly appreciate that. And we'll try to be brief, and in doing so. Chad asked us to touch on a few things, such as population, housing, jobs, employment, and transportation projection improvements and things that are going on in our community. So basically our community at the current time is about 10 square miles. The projection is that we will grow to about 22 to 28 miles. Most all of our growth henceforth will be to the north, up to probably the river. And so it won't be encroaching on any other community within our particular region at all. And of course, that's a long-term thing, depending on development and how it proceeds. Currently, our population, we're guessing, is somewhere north of 5,000. I think that's very conservative because of the growth that we've had the last decade or two. But of course, if you add on our school students and our school staff and teachers, then that goes to about an additional 10,000 during a school day. Last year on our housing part, we had 102 housing unit permits that were issued. And over the last decade, we've averaged, and I didn't figure it all, but we've averaged over 50 single family homes per year. That doesn't count the new apartments that we have, or the duplexes or the triplexes. We currently have 9 active housing developments. They run all the way from duplex developments to $1 million homes and everywhere in between. So we have quite a diverse housing movement going on in the city of Mays. We have 2 additional housing units that will come on next month. Again, those are single family homes, and they will probably somewhere be in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $700,000 homes. Later this summer, we will have 3 additional housing units coming on. We'll have a total of 14 housing units. So by the time we're settled, we have over 1,300 new family units that are either under construction or are pending, based on how fast they can get them built. So we've been very fortunate. We've done a lot of planning up here. We have a very visionary council and mayor, and they're very supportive, and we've done a lot of planning and in-house things, so it's allowed for the growth. And of course, one of the largest draws we have up here is our school district, and we recognize that it's a quality movement that they have up there. So as we move forward, what we found that of our residents, the 5,000 plus, or how many ever we have, about 95% of those residents commute daily to jobs either in Wichita or somewhere in the metropolitan area. And then when it comes to our school district, we have 7,800 student population within our 10 campus buildings. We have 10 campuses in the Mays School District, plus an additional 3 buildings for maintenance, transportation, and administration. And we're in the process of building 3 more. So that tells you that. The school district has grown about 9% in the past 5 years, and it's continuing to grow. The screen you have there is one of the new 5th and 6th grade campuses. There are 2 of those that's coming in. They will house about 1,000 students, plus staff and support personnel. The Mays School District, the students that are up here, about 80% of our student population comes from the city of Wichita. The BOE employees, we have about 1,400 employees, teachers, staff, and support personnel that work for the district. They are the largest employer in the city of Mays, and they're also one of the top 20 employers in terms of numbers in the metropolitan area. The BOE employees live here in Mays, they live in Wichita, they live in Newton, Hutchinson, Valley Center, Cheney, Derby, Andover, Goddard, Park City, and many other surrounding communities. In our Mays Industrial Park, that's an area that is located north of 53rd to between 119th and 135th. We opened that industrial park in 2014. It is now full. You're looking at one of the plants up there, Kyoto Yushi. Kyoto Yushi provides, it's a Japanese plant. This is the first plant they've ever built out of Japan. It's a fully operational plant. It provides 70+% of all the grease for all the vehicles in North America. And their goal is to go to 100%. They are one of our international partners. Of the 10 ones up there, another one, we have Reffenhauser, and what they are, they're a German company. This is our Japanese partners here in the opening ceremony. And this is the German company, and this is also their first company, or their first operation outside of Germany. So we're very fortunate. There are several hundreds of employees in the 10 units that we have up there. Our goal now is to go to 135th Street West and north to K96. And we have been in discussions with the county, with Commissioner Dennis and with his staff. And we will probably partner with them in the future in terms of making some improvements on 135th Street, depending on demand, and we have to work out the time schedules. So we have a good feel for our industrial park. It's in a perfect location, has K&O Railroad, has 96 and access to the interstate and very close to the airport. So it's a very, very solid thing. Some of the things that we're working on, as I indicated earlier, there are 3 major street repairs, or I'm sorry, upgrades that we're doing right now in conjunction with the new school campuses coming on board. One of the things that we have experienced in our community, and I'm sure other smaller communities have experienced the thing, all the population and all the growth has simply outgrown our transportation system. Our transportation, our roadway system was never designed to handle the thousands of cars and vehicles, school buses, and things of that nature that we need to. So we have to upgrade and to make the transportation safe and expedient. One of the things that we have just completed is the 119th Street improvement. It goes south of 45th Street and the 45th Street intersection, which is by the Mays High School and the Mays Academy, and will be next to one of the 5th and 6th grade complexes, as well as the new natatorium that has been upgraded to a fully signalized intersection with turn bays, and we've made 3-lane roadways as far as we could on 119th to date. We're now going to go west from 119th to 135th, and that will start probably next month. They have until the end of May to finish that project so that we can go to the next project, which is Academy Street and 119th, and that will go north from 45th, basically a 3-lane road all the way up to 53rd, and that will be completed. The intersection, excuse me, the intersection itself will be completed this summer, and then we'll finish the roadway to 53rd in the fall. The next thing, I beg your pardon. The next thing we have is this summer we'll be doing a crosswalk on Mays Road and Academy Street, and this will fit into our Academy Street improvement project, which is going to take place in I'm in 2022, and this is a WAMPO funded project that you can see on your screen, the Academy Street. It will go from Mays Road to a little over half a mile to the west and tie into some of our projects that are going further to the west. So there's a lot of street activities going on. And of course, what we try to do is coordinate those major ones around the schools with the summer break. So it really puts a push on all of the construction people and takes a lot of coordination to get it done. But we've been very fortunate with our partners. The county have been great to work with. The city of Wichita staff are great to work with. All of our surrounding communities, fellow suburban communities are excellent to work with. We just, our school district couldn't be any better to work with. So it's just great when you have good partners. It makes things a lot easier. Everyone picks up the load and helps everyone else out. Some of the things that we've identified that we think needs to be considered for you in the future is the 53rd Street. That is going to be a regional project that certainly needs to be considered in the future. 53rd Street is going to be one of those main arterials literally going across the county on both sides. And so I think the 53rd Street, both to the east of our industrial park and back to the west, is something that will have to be upgraded in the years to come for too long. I spoke briefly of 135th Street north of 53rd to 96 Highway. Again, we've been in discussions with the county on that, and we're working on it. And of course, the Northwest bypass, if and when that ever comes by, we've made plans. Years ago, when we did the Mays Road project, again, WAMPO stepped in and helped us with that. They changed the alignment of some of the off and on ramps and made the Mays Road, when you come south, that is now a connecting link for that. And then they made some accommodations for on and off ramps as it comes through. There's 3 miles through Mays that it'll come through. There'll be on and off ramps at Mays Road and at 119th Street. So if and when, I think that'll be somebody else's watch, not mine. But at some point, hopefully that'll become a reality. Some of the other projects we're working on is the item that you see there is one of our gateway projects that the council is currently looking at, and that's still under discussion. We want to upgrade a lot of the design features. I'd like to tell you I came up with that. I obviously didn't, but it certainly looks nice. I appreciate the people that did. The amphitheater, this is something that has been our previous mayor, who passed away unexpectedly a couple of years ago, had this vision in his mind, and our current mayor, Donna, and the council have carried on that vision. And so we're in the process of getting the amphitheater, which will be in our park. It will also tie into the Academy Street project that you saw a little bit earlier in the presentation. And that's just another picture of the master plan of what it will look like. It also will tie in with the schools. This particular amphitheater is surrounded by campuses of the school. And of course, the school will be one of the main users of the amphitheater. So some of the other things, of course, with growth and everything that you have to continue to work on is last year we completed doubling the size of our wastewater plant. And we're still operating under the same permit, but if and when we need to increase that, we will have the opportunity to go to the state and get that improved. And we're making the second phase of that operation. Basically what it amounts to is adding some power and things of that nature to make it work. We're also, because of the growth and development, it's now starting to take place over on Tyler Road, 53rd. We'll be putting a new water line in. The council's already approved that, and they're in the process, and that'll be in sometime this year. It'll go 53rd over to Tyler Road, south and north on Tyler Road. And then, of course, we're in the process of upgrading. We had a water system study, and we're going to need in the future additional water towers, perhaps some water wells and things of that nature. So we're working in that process. So as far as growth patterns and transportation things, I'm beginning my 21st year up here, and we've always been busy. But I can honestly say we've never been as busy as we are now. And from talking to some of our colleagues in the other communities, they too are very busy. And I think that's a great sign for our community. And we know that we are a part of the whole, and we believe in the regionalism aspect of it. And I think everyone is doing a good job in cooperating on that. So that finishes my notes that Jolene prepared for me. Ms. Jolene, do you have anything you would like to add that I missed?
No, just that, for a suburban city of 5,000, our transportation needs are incredible. When you consider that 96%, Richard, we must have dry air here.
Yes, it's complex. Yeah.
96% of our residents commute outside of our city to go to work every day. Almost 8,000 students and 1,400 employees come in and out to Mays every day for school, hundreds into our industrial park. We also have a master bike and pedestrian system that connects to the Wichita regional system, to their bike ped plans. So, it's hundreds of construction workers with all the housing boom, and we really are in a bit of a boom. So, and with that, I think, Richard, you did a great job. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting us do this. And Chad, thank you again for the invite.
Well, Richard and Jolene, thank you very much for the updates. What's happening in Mays is great news for the entire community. It's not in my district, but we support things that are happening and growing throughout the entire county. So we appreciate what's happening. I had the opportunity to go out when Kyoto Yushi had their ribbon cutting and participate in that. Lubrication engineers who put that together for them did a tremendous job. We are, as I said, working, trying to see how we can expand their industrial area out there. And we are looking at 135th going north out of 53rd Street. And Richard did mention the Northwest Bypass. We probably ought to get a briefing at some point for all of the TPB to see what's going on there. Secretary Lorenz contracted a study to see what we could do to maybe make that a barrierless toll road, and we haven't got the update on that. So I think it's probably time we try and find out where that update is and get that to all the committee members. The other thing Mays is doing is that they're a member of the K96 area committee. I know Richard serves as, I think, the president, aren't you, Richard?
Yes, sir, by default. But I am. Thank you.
So there's a lot of exciting things that are going on out in that area, and they all impact the growth of this entire region. So we sincerely appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions of either
Yes.
Jolene or Richard?
Yes. This is Donna Klassen, Mayor. I just have to say that I've been on the city council longer than Richard, and that we started in a smaller building that was smaller than a one-room schoolhouse. And with visionary leadership and good council members, we have grown by planning. And I am so pleased with our staff and, of course, our leadership, which is what makes us great as far as that goes. So thank you, Richard. You've done a good job.
Thank you, Donna.
Well, thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it. And thanks for Chad for inviting them to participate. I look forward to more briefings like this because our communities are doing a great job and we need to recognize what they're doing. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for the update. And we'll move on to item 5, which is committee reports. And I'll start with the executive committee. Pretty well, I've discussed everything that the executive committee talked about at our last meeting, with one exception, and that's we do have a requirement to get evaluations in on Chad as our director. I've asked each of the executive committee members to fill out an evaluation. There is a form for that, and they've each got a copy of the form for the evaluation. The only thing that I'm bringing this up to you all for is if any of you have anything that you'd like us to add to his evaluation, please don't hesitate to get a hold of myself or Becky or Dan or any of the other. Now, Bruce Armstrong, we just invited him and he was not at our meeting, so we didn't tell him about that, but he's welcome to submit an evaluation if he wishes to. But please, if anyone has anything that they'd like us to include in his evaluation, make sure that you get a hold of one of the committee members so that we can include it. So that is all that I have for executive committee, unless anyone has any questions. I don't see any questions, so we'll go on to the regional freight. Karen, are you on? Because everybody's so small, I can't see who's on. Doesn't sound like it. How about active transportation? Is Alan or Jack?
Yes, this is Alan Kaler. Thank you. For the Active Transportation Committee. We had our committee meeting last week, March 2nd, and had presentations from Jack Heslop about what they're doing in Derby, and from James Wagner in Wichita. And we're continuing on our process of understanding what the different jurisdictions within the region have in terms of active transportation plans, and proceeding to try to figure out how best to understand and coordinate those. Our next meeting is in June, as it says there, and would love to have more participation from Mays and any of the other communities in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any of the members of TPB? Seeing none, thank you for the update. We appreciate it. Next on the agenda, Tom Hine. I saw that he was on. Do you have anything from Wichita Metro?
I do. In February, we opened the bids for the Gold Project, Phase 2B, the accelerated portion, which replaces 2 important ramps. And that work should start in April. We have the bids in. They have not officially been accepted yet, but we look for that to happen very soon. I've started a website, 135gold.com, so you can check out the features of it, the traffic interruptions that we might have during the course of the 3-year project, and any other information. There are a lot of links there to guide you. Also, we put out a request for proposals, and it is due back from consultants on March 19th, and that is for the WAMPO Regional Fiber Plan, a part of a project that is going forward very soon. And we have a lot of new projects and restart of some winter shutdown projects on Wichita and the Metro Highway. So look for those. More cones. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And I appreciate the update, especially on the gold phase. And I appreciate the state of Kansas. I know that you recently got the bids in for the gold phase, and it came in a bit higher than what we anticipated. But the feedback I received was that the state of Kansas is going to cover that delta so that Wichita and Sedgwick County doesn't have to come up with money that we don't have right now, honestly. So
Sure.
My thanks very much. And I know that everybody in Wichita and Sedgwick County, thank you very much for helping us out with that next phase.
Right. We look forward to that starting soon.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. Next is KDOT. Michael Moriarty, I saw was on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I did want to let the group know KDOT is currently actively recruiting for a new GIS manager. This person would be responsible for the entirety of KDOT's GIS systems and the connections between our GIS platforms and IT systems within the various business units across KDOT. This is a section manager level position, and we do intend to conduct a local, regional, and national search for the new manager. So if you know anyone that might be interested, please ask them to keep an eye towards ksdot.org, or they can reach out to me directly to discuss the opportunity. And Mr. Chair, I will be in touch with the Kansas Turnpike Authority regarding an update to the TPB on the Northwest Bypass study. I can report at this point, Trans-Systems, KTA, and KDOT are in the process of drafting a tech memo, and that should be available later this spring.
That's great news. I appreciate that too. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, next is Federal Highway Administration, and I saw Rick was on a little bit ago. I'm hoping he's still there.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all. Yeah, I have a couple of updates. First off, I know it's been, I believe, 2 months since I've been with, joined you all. Lots been happening within Federal Highways and within USDOT. You know, as you all are aware, we have a new administration coming on board. We did get Secretary Pete Buttigieg confirmed as our Secretary of Transportation. Polly Trottenberg, who brings wealth of experience, having worked in the department and at head of New York City DOT, is going through confirmation as we speak. We do have a deputy administrator who's acting, Stephanie Pollock, who is the former CEO of Massachusetts DOT. She's a huge proponent of complete streets and a lot of innovative intermodal solutions to issues. So Stephanie has come on board. She's very data driven. You know, she's been awesome to work with so far. I've been in a couple of meetings with her, and we're off to a great start with the new leadership. A couple key themes that we're all going to be seeing as the new administration further gets settled in, that we're working on as a department, and I wanted to make mention of these. Core areas that we're really going to be focused in are safety, recovery from COVID issues, economic development, climate change, and racial equity, and how that comes into transportation, our transportation decision making, and how do we find opportunities to work on that issue. Those areas are going to be key themes that you're going to be seeing in legislation as we move forward. I think most folks are aware that the COVID relief bill, $1.9 trillion, is soon to be getting to the president's desk, it appears. From what we're hearing, we're expecting quite a discussion afterwards on an infrastructure bill, so stay tuned. There's a lot of exciting things coming. The COVID relief legislation that was passed back on December 27th, known as CRSSA, we do have guidance out on that, and I know we've shared that with KDOT, and I believe through them to WAMPO, but that has finally come out, and I know that that's very welcome for folks. Within our office, since January, we've had Barbara Maley from our Texas division taking the role of Paul Fandukas, and I know Barbara. She's a very seasoned planner, and she's been providing excellent help. So Chad, I don't know if you've interacted with Barbara yet, but you know, we're real happy to have her on and providing support. In terms of the vacancy filling for that, we are getting into the interview phase for that. So, you know, there is movement going forward. And I know on the North Junction project build grant, I know that Matt McDonald has been continuing a lot of discussions with you all. I know we're waiting on word from Office of Secretary of Transportation on you know, the funding issue that was being discussed. We're still waiting for a response back, but you know, you can keep in mind, we have a brand new administration getting settled, and there's a lot of dust that's getting back down to the floor after, such a change. So that's all I have. Any questions from me?
Any questions for Rick?
All right, I'm passing the baton back.
Very good. Well, thank you all for the reports. And as far as Sedgwick County, I'm sure I speak for the city of Wichita and the surrounding communities, and especially for WAMPO, things like the coronavirus relief funds that we're getting. We're trying to now figure out where we're going to program those, North Junction, especially the Northwest Bypass, all of the other support. We sincerely appreciate all the help that our partners are giving us as we make this a greater place to live, work, and play. So thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions or anything else that we need to discuss or any other business?
This is Mayor Klassen Mays. My question is regarding our audit. I know we've set up some goals to meet based on the last couple of years' audit. Will you give, or will there be some type of report from Chad or the executive committee on how we're meeting the necessary changes, adjustments, or is this just a one-year thing? We get it all when we get the audit? And I don't need an answer today, but I just need to know what your plans are. Thank you.
Certainly, and Chad can give a better answer than I can, but we do have a new contract to do the 2020 audit and to expedite that to see where we're at. And he just finished working that. So we should have some information on where we're at based on 2020, which is very important so that we can find out whether or not we've corrected all the things that were identified in the previous audits. So Chad, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mayor Dan Klassen, from the advice of Executive Committee, Councilor Becky Katul and Commissioner Dave Dennis and Commissioner Dan Woodzack, the audit is really expedited with AGH, and we have field visit scheduled for the week of April 12th, and we also made corrective action plan, and then all of those will be discussed at that time, and then a report should be provided to you, Executive Committee as well as TPB, as quickly as possible. The staff is working very diligently with the AGH members to get all compiled, all the reports. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the question, Mayor. Any other questions?
Chairman, this is Becky Tuttle. I just wanted to, regarding the CARES funding, and I think this is probably directed towards Chad, but now that we have a little bit more guidance, it might be helpful just to explain what we think that, and if you don't have an answer yet, we can certainly send something out later, but the process for how the funds, the CARES funds, the 3.7, some almost 3.8 will be, what will be the process for that? Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We have primarily the projects, the transportation projects that are programmed for any funding through WAMPO is generally the projects need to be in the long-range transportation plan, the metropolitan transportation plan, MPP, and also the ones that are programmed in TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, are the usual process that occur. However, talking to some of the technical committee members, I realized, staff realized that call for projects, solicitation of projects, what projects are shovel ready, what projects are potential, is something that we're exploring. So the process of having this call for projects and contacting all jurisdictions and identifying potential projects is usually about 3 to 4 months. So I'll be discussing more with technical committee members how we schedule and how this process will occur in the next months ahead, and I'll report back to you. At the moment, the staff is coordinating. with various jurisdictions at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other issues we need to bring before the TPB today? Seeing none, we'll adjourn, and Councilwoman Tuttle and Chad here in the near future, we probably ought to get together and go through some of the things I jotted down for action items. Again, thank you all, and we will adjourn.